I think you were saying something.
I was. You were talking about your mom, and I was just curious. Like, do you feel like your mom, because she was in a different era, carried herself maybe differently than most modern women do today? And I don't want to use that term in a loaded fashion, but like where's that give and take? If we're saying men aren't built the same, like, but are women built, carrying themselves differently? So then, I get it. Okay. So is it unreasonable then to expect men to act in a way where women aren't acting in the way that would attract a man like that?
I don't know. I just think this generation of guys is just so completely different.
But what about this generation of women?
I think
my mom was a stay-at-home mom that, she went to all the board meetings, and my dad was a pilot and flew across the world. But I guess it was different. Like, I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't know. I guess I have a different view on relationships because of my parents, but it's also just hard, maybe because of my dating past.
So you're saying you don't want what they have?
No, I definitely do want what they have, but
you don't want to live the way they live.
I think it was just different. Yeah.
Get your last minute chats in. We're going to wrap up in about 10-15 minutes.
My wife is a stay-at-home mom who homeschools our kids and works part-time keeping our books.
Yeah.
It is different. Technology is different. Dating apps are different. But all my wife's friends are stay-at-home moms who have side hustles and are amazing moms, teachers, educators.
I just think it's so different. Like I was saying earlier, the social media aspect of things. Like my dad was a pilot. I uncovered their box of like love letters to each other. Like it was just so different then. Like,
but I think it is possible today. I think it's hard. I do think it's hard. I think there's a lot of people that are, because of social media, because of the sexual revolution. I know we've talked a lot about porn, but I would say because of porn, all these things, it's a lot harder to have what you're describing, but it is possible.
So you guys give me hope. That's good.
but we're not like just lucky. I think, we were very blessed. I think I don't know about your family background, but I can say like my parents are together. Like that is a privilege I have.
Yeah.
But I will also say like, it is possible for everyone, but we just have to be that change we want to see. We have to choose it. Like if we want to be that with a man who's going to be that provider, that protector, who's going to be a man of honor, then our role would be to be that woman of honor who wants to cherish motherhood, and not prioritize careerism over it, and who's preparing for a life like that. Because it will maximize that opportunity for us.
Go ahead,
I also
Isabella.
would add that, like, even though I'm 23, a lot of my friends are already in their 30s, and the biggest thing that they say is that they feel that, like, at this point in their lives, that feminism really did have a big impact on them. Not in the way that it is now, but more so that women, like, were told, like, you can do whatever you want. You have your whole 20s. You have time to be able to settle down and have a family. And now, like, I have a friend who's 34 who, like, just ended a 2-year relationship, and she's like, I spent my entire 20s thinking that I had time, and now here I am, and I don't have time.
But I also want to like revert back to, because I was seeing comments earlier and like, she has 2 eggs left. Like, don't just assume that.
I mean, the truth is that women are on a biological clock, but genetics and the way that you take care of yourself is really crucial.
Like,
to
they
that.
shouldn't just automatically assume because I'm 35 and I don't have a husband and the white picket fence. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
My best friend's 34 and she just went to a fertility clinic and she's completely fine. So
my mom
really think
had me when she was 40 and they said her ovaries looked like that of a 21-year-old.
No one's saying that me, I'm 34, or actually I'm 35. I turned 35 last month. No one is saying that any of us, because we're older, like we're doomed or anything.
I just think we have this, like, as older women, I don't even want to consider myself that, but like you just have this. And then just seeing the comments, I'm like,
Don't look at the comments.
I know.
I think the key is. I think the key is, the point or the key here is, this is a dating podcast. It's like, what's the way to maximize dating towards your goals?
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you in Miami too?
I'm in Nashville.
Okay, so you're in a major city.
Yeah.
So just something to consider. We're communicating selection bias on both parts. You're in Miami, you're in Nashville, you guys are in the Hollywood scene. That's very different than the way the rest of the country lives.
Yeah.
Right? So if you come to Vista, California and go to church with me and meet all my friends and my wife's friends, and you meet a dozen stay-at-home moms, right? My world is completely different. Your world is different. Your world is different. And so my advice would be, maybe be open to meeting some different people in different circles as friends, not like to date, but and that'll show you that like, oh no, there's actually a lot of people that still do hold to those values that you.
I feel like we're only talking about women who want kids. Like, what about the women who don't want kids?
Well, I think we're talking about women who want to be with men that want to be that provider protector, and typically those women are seeking a family and wanting to have kids. And
I think most women want to have kids, most.
Yeah. Like 90% or something?
85% of women will have kids.
I remember having a conversation with my dad when I was like 18, when I was graduating high school, where I asked him, what did you want to do when you were finishing high school or actually finishing college? And I remember him just telling me, well, I wanted to marry your mom and I wanted to build a family with her. And I remember just being like a young punk ass kid that had all these like dreams of entrepreneurship and creativity and stuff, and just being kind of stumped and just even then thinking like, this is the generation gap, that my parents, to them, to just have a nice American dream life was the goal. And I think that to a lot of like young dudes, especially now, and probably women too, it's like you want to like build something and make something out of yourself before you want to settle down, because you pretty much accurately know that once you become Steve Jobs that you're going to have, you know, your pick of all the different women out there. And that mentality is, I guess in some ways it makes sense, in that like if you remain single, maybe you're going to be able to work harder on your hopes and dreams. But I also think that it's kind of a pipe dream, and for the average person, especially given how high the cost of living is, especially in major cities, it's like realistically probably the best thing that you could do is like fall in love, get into a relationship with a girl, get married, split your expenses, have a family, etc. once you feel comfortable financially. But like, you know, we just live in a society where we're constantly surrounded by people who are putting on examples of doing the other thing, which is basically like mindlessly chasing ass and you know, highs and money or whatever for your whole life. And that is kind of like a weird thing that the manosphere has to sort of reckon with, which is that, you know, I think, you know, somebody like Andrew Tate being like at the forefront of the manosphere now, it's like you can't really necessarily just be pushing an agenda of like, yo, as many girls as possible, because Andrew Tate is out here saying like, no, that is not going to make you happy in the long run. And anyone who's really being honest with you is going to let you know that's not going to make you happy in the long run. To me, it's a nuanced question of like, how long do you need to be single? Like, what is the ideal number of people that you should probably be thinking you might want to have sex with before you get into a long-term relationship?
I would just, that was very profound. And I think what we're saying is, statistically speaking, the majority of men and women will have kids. What is the optimal way to build a family? If we're talking about dating, we're talking about relationships, what's the optimal way to cause the most amount of flourishing to the most amount of people? And what has worked through and through all these civilizations? I think that's the crux of what we're getting on. So what you're saying is totally spot on. And it's not red pill, blue pill to me. There's a lot of goofy things from both sides, a lot of nonsense being pushed. But if we're talking about the optimal flourishing environments, because we're all going to eventually have kids, majority of us anyway, how does that look?
If you're a guy, I mean, I think it's probably, you know, you spend however many years being single and sort of figuring out what you like and what you don't like. And then at some point, once you get into the relationship, you just take it serious. I think once, as a guy in my life, when I decided that I wanted to actually treat a girl good, it wasn't really that hard for me to then end up in a relationship with her, you know, whereas when I was trying to do the thing of like trying to be this playboy or trying to like be getting drunk and fucked up and just kind of treating women like pieces of shit, then that was like, it's very hard for you to land in a relationship when you're not showing the girl respect. But if you, as soon as you flip the switch and start like actually treating her like you give a shit about what happens to her or how you're treating her, usually it's it's not that complicated.
Well, you know, it's like powerful too is we can learn from other people's experiences, because I do think like you sharing your experience, Adam, like other people sharing their experience, like, hey, this is how I lived and it didn't make me happy, and so then I wanted to, you know, get married or whatever it is. I do think that people don't have to sow their wild oats. Like, I think that is a mythology in our culture today of like, oh, when you're young, you're promiscuous and then you settle down. I know so many couples who were young and they were each other's first and they settled down and they have this beautiful life that they built together. Now, that's not everybody's story, obviously, but I think that we need to kind of make that normal again, because right now, if you're a virgin and, you know, you get married, you know, I got married at 30 and I was a virgin, and people were like, no one was like, oh, you're so crazy, you're so weird, like, how could that be? And it's like, why don't we normalize that instead of saying it's weird? I mean, literally people get made fun of for being virgins, especially men, actually, which is so sad.
It's true.
And it should be the opposite. It should be like, no, let's celebrate that, not to shame people who aren't, but let's celebrate living that people say it's traditional, but living that way, because it leads to and has led to so many beautiful marriages, like your parents and my parents and other people who have those role models.